Todd, I can't do this anymore.
Oh.
You'll be back.
Yeah, right. Wait, yeah, I'm calling. An hour before the show, I'm calling Pam up, see if she's gonna talk to me. She's not talking to me anymore. Listen, guys, thank you all, man. Hey, Terry, how do you feel?
Yeah, it was good.
I feel good, Ed.
Okay.
I've heard all this before. It's like the judge over at Marion told Ken Swindle, all you have is a theory.
Yeah, we should have dropped that guy sooner, but nah.
Well, I forgot what.
Well, that's going to be great, though, when we rehear that.
Hey, next time I'll carry a pencil and paper with me in the car.
Yeah, right. Yeah. A video crew.
Hope there is. Thank you, guys. I got to go. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Have a good night, Terry.
Yeah.
Yeah, good night, Terry.
Good night. Thank you, man. Bye.
Yeah, he's such a man. There's no way that guy. Guys. Can I say something, man? There's no way that guy could pull off a murder and get away with it, man. There's just no way.
He left a trail of evidence.
What was that?
Myers. I said he would have left a trail of evidence. There would have been blood going to his doorway. Same Myers. You would have found, like, insurance policies up the yin-yang.
Dude, I've seen cases, man. My lawyer back in New York, we case in the projects where this guy went and killed his neighbor, stabbed her up there, and went. There was a blood trail back to his apartment. He got a mop and tried to mop it. There was a mop trail from the murder scene back to his own apartment, man. So, yeah, that stuff happens. And there's no way this guy could have pulled this off.
All the evidence points to those three guys. They're seen there. Gave multiple confessions, fibers, even a little bit of tiny DNA, though it's kind of murky.
Okay, so I got another show coming up Thursday. I don't have a guest, man. I don't know what to do. I guess we'll play it by ear. I'll talk to Sean and see if Pam wants to come on.
Even if she comes on just for 5 minutes, it'd be worth it just to hear her talk about that. And finally put it as a surprise guest. Nobody should know about it ahead of time.
I hear you, man. You know, but I was a little overwhelmed. This was a last minute thing. This whole thing was last minute. I just heard about this like less than a week ago when I put this together, and I forgot how obsessed these nuts are. And I just promoted like I do every other show or everything else I'm up to, and I wasn't expecting.
It's key for them to be able to say, well, everything Terry did it, including his wife, the mother of Stevie. Anything that can contradict that, they got to go and shoot it down before it can even happen.
Well, I'm sure it would make the news, because when she made that statement at that college with that guy, with Baldwin, and when she said she was dropping her accusations against Terry, it made the local news down there.
They tried to deny that.
You know, obviously, Pam and Mark Byers, the change of heart about who was guilty really impacted public perception. You know, when you have people as closely as family members saying something, people pay more attention. And and you know, John Douglas takes not a little bit of credit for that, where, you know, he talks about having sat both of them down, and despite being told to get off Mark Byers' port, or Mark Byers being reticent about talking with him, you know, Douglas says he was able to kind of lay out why he thought the profile fit, and that it was Hobbs.
John Douglas.
And they kind of,
my point with John Douglas earlier in the show was the whole Guy Palin thing, where he had tailored a profile with a guy already in his mind of who he thought had to be the killer, because he was told he was a suspect. Same thing happened with Terry. He was told about him beforehand. And then all of a sudden he makes a profile that just so happens to fit Terry, after he'd already talked to the guy.
You know, Terry has a story about being picked up by John Douglas's guys. He thought it was the real FBI, and it was all retired FBI guys. And they picked him up.
Yeah, that's a tactic John Douglas likes to do. John Douglas, he's been wrong countless times. He says in his book, The Cases That Haunt Us, that Albert DeSalvo was not the Boston Strangler. He likes to tap dance back and forth between if William Hirons is guilty or innocent. In his book Mindhunter, he talks about how him and Robert Ressler interviewed William Hirons, and William Hirons was obviously guilty, he says. And then he says in reporter that obviously William Hirons is innocent. He starts talking about this conspiracy about planting fingerprints and everything, how the police and FBI somehow planted his fingerprints and palm prints on evidence in 2 murder cases.
That's amazing, because he's also bungled the Green River killing. That was the guy up in, I think, Seattle or something like that. He, bungled the Green River killer sent a letter, and Douglas ignored that. And then, he got everything wrong about the West Memphis 3 case. Deliberate lying. It's just astonishing what he had in his most recent book.
Well, just because a guy's in the FBI or even a high-profile ex-FBI agent doesn't mean that they're very good at what they're doing. I'm in contact with a lot of these guys.
Ed, read the 110 pages in his most recent book. It's just absolute fable.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance, but I glanced at it on your blog, though. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's an absolute fiction. And he said something that I was just flabbergasted. I actually truly dropped my jaw when I read it. He said he read the case files and said, I'll just repeat it. In sum, I found not one shred of evidence and nothing in the behavioral backgrounds of Damien Echols, Jason Baldwin, or Jesse Miskelly Jr. to suggest that any were guilty of murder.
Yeah, I saw that line.
John Douglas, that's the same book that he talks about William Hirons, that he starts suddenly talking about all these conspiracies, about how they planted evidence and they fabricated everything. They forced him to confess. That they scared him into thinking he was going to get the electric chair, and they sent him into confessing. They even involved the same. That case even had Richard Offshay, the false confession expert.
Yeah, he's full of crap too. Offshay is a total monster.
I wanted to agree with William, and I've got to look at his blog about the John Douglas 110 pages on the West Memphis case. He just totally disregards any chance of the WM3 being guilty. And two things that jumped out at me, and I'd like to do a more full analysis of his pages, but two things he relates are straight from that himself. One, he kind of repeats that Echols really need to know this is when you can find numerous examples of racist cases, people saying they were friends, people saying Jesse's house on occasion, Dominique related that detail, and history's being rewritten, I'm starting to pick up my own voice and everything else in between.
Oh, Ed?
Yeah.
I think that's Ed. Ed, did you unplug?
Yeah, I did unplug. Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're having a bad echo.
Okay, let me plug back in.
Okay.
I thought that was me for a second.
Sorry.
I thought it was Fred, but I see that it's coming off of Ed.
I had to get up and take
You got up to do something.
Yeah, get a drink.
Yeah, okay.
I want an after show like they do on Watch What Happened Lives on it with Andy Cohen where everybody's drinking.
Yeah.
I like to compare this case, though, to, the movie Serial Mom by John Waters. Everybody, has, their own little thing in the movie where, they're talking about, oh, what talk show did you appear on? Oh, I've appeared on this talk show. Who's playing you in the movie?
Yeah.
And, Suzanne Summers, she's the celebrity supporter in the movie.
Another John Douglas contention that's very strange and off base that speaks right to Williams' wheelhouse is when Douglas relates Damien Echols' spiritual journey as a young man, and he includes the various world religions and Catholicism, Buddhism, and things like that, and really make no mention of. I think he does talk about he refers to the occult, but there's no mention of Satan, of course, and. If you study Damien Echols' writings and drawings in 1992, 1993 that are available to us, there's several references to Satan, and while he was in jail awaiting trial, he imagines himself to be Satan's artillery captain, grinning fool with cheeks, manning the big guns in a war with heaven, and imagines himself a Christ figure, a new Messiah that has to gather disciples for a coming war that took place in 1984. So there's lots of touches of satanic stuff in the writings and his drawings, but to hear it from John Douglas, it's just a nice little world trip of big religions, and it's an earth spiritual that's not marred by any kind of Satan crap.
Yeah, it's amazing.
To understand John Douglas, you have to understand that he goes with whatever's the popular opinion at the time. William Irons was thought to be guilty at one point, so he said he was guilty. Then everybody said he was innocent, so suddenly he's innocent. He did the same thing with the he worked on. He said Wayne Williams only murdered 11 of the victims, and he knows his case.
Like I study, when people start to study all this, that's what Crowley did. That to me, that's a code that people who may not be familiar with occultism may gloss over. But like
Crowley also talks about Buddhism too.
Oh yeah, Crowley studied Buddhism. He studied Yogi. He studied Hinduism. He studied the I Ching, all Chinese occultism. He studied everything. He truly knew all religions, and he believed.
I got a copy of Book 4 right here in my room.
Yeah, listen. But he said that he distilled them all into his own wisdom, but he was a Satanist. And you see other people who are in Crowley do the same thing. They all come to that certain level where they distill and take out all the wisdom from the world religions and make their own. That's exactly what L. Ron Hubbard did.
Crowley was connected with Hubbard too,
What?
Crowley was connected with Hubbard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that ritual with the, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly. It's
Jack
called
Parsons.
Babylon Working.
Right, there you go.
But, these guys are all connected. I mean, my next book, the reason why I came across Memphis 3 is because the next book, which I'm at page 400, I'm trying to edit it, is about the followers of Crowley. And it's amazing these guys all think alike. So once you can kind of understand what they're saying, kind of code their words that have meanings within their own worldview, you can spot them. You can call them what you want, Satanists, Illuminates, occults, or whatever, but they all have the same view. And a lot of them all like Crowley.
I hear you.
Yeah, so it's pretty scary.
He was a freak.
He was into white magic. That was one of my favorite things. He's into white magic and all this.
I like his explanation for why he changed his name to Damien and how it just so happens to correspond with a quote from The Exorcist, which they found a copy of in his room.
Well, when I got involved in this, I thought they were innocent. And at the time, I was in daily contact with Art Bell. I was working on a case with Art Bell. And Art Bell was married to a Wiccan. And so I told Burke Souls. And I says, hey, man, I can get you guys on Art Bell's show. It would be really easy. And I says, and I mentioned some other shows, too, that I had connections to at the time, too. I forget what they were. And I says, Art Bell, his wife is Wiccan. And Burke Saul said to me, he goes, ooh. He goes, oh, we really want to get on that show where the guy's a Wiccan. I don't think he even knew who Art Bell was. You guys know who Art Bell is?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I got involved in this, man. I thought they were innocent, and I wanted to get them exposure. But then I went and I read all the stuff from Sean on Usenet.
The first time I actually saw them, I didn't understand that they were innocent. I knew that people said that they were innocent, but to me they looked like, the mugshots just looked like every photo you've seen of a school shooter.
Yeah.
Every single photo.
Well, William has these videos and stuff like that of Eccles with a pentagram on his chest.
Yeah. So
I recently posted up a bunch of drawings of Eccles' his prison artwork. It's all people being mutilated and eyes gouged out.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, and it seems like now he's, he was trying to portray himself as a Buddhist and all this kind of stuff, and having no religion, all kinds of things. But right now he's pretty right out there out in the open, and they're just bowing down to him.
Well, he likes to claim that he's the Hermetic Reiki thing, whatever the heck that is. He's also got some obsession. He thinks like he's an Anne Rice vampire now too. I don't know what that is, really, that whole thing that he's got going on. It's some sort of obsession he's had that's started with his teenage years and just continued all the way to now.
Did we lose you?
Oh, yeah, we lost me for a minute there.
One of the interesting things about Eccles and his pattern is that if you read through the court records and all the documentation the police compiled, he has a habit of crank calling people.
Oh, really?
And phone calling. Like, there were a couple women who he'd call and threaten to kill. And he did the same thing, through an intermediary with Mike Blatty in Salem. He was calling them and intimidating them through this one of his lackeys. And then I went through the documents and everything on the Callahan 8K site, and I'm almost positive that he crank called the police in West Memphis. And I want you guys to listen to this. Let me see if I can play it.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting phone call.
It sounds just like Eccles. So
yeah, I thought it did sound like it was possibly him. It's within his voice range to be able to do it. Whether it's really him or not, I don't know.
I'm 50-50 on it. It very well could be, but I'm 100% it could just be another tager calling in.
Well, a professional could analyze that, and match it to his voice now. You can do all that kind of audio enhancement.
Well, that's what I was listening. See if you guys can hear this. All right, listen to it again. So, I mean,
yeah.
The more when I hear Eccles talk, it's just like the same sound.
It's very similar. I'll say that. It's very similar.
Well, let me ask you guys, Fred and Adam, because I know, like, you guys, whenever the Satanism is brought up on these blogs and stuff like that, everyone just laughs it off and poo-poos it. Like, what do you think now?
I think Eccles, he's definitely an occultist, but I don't know how much Satanism played a part in the crime. I mean, it definitely could be a factor, but I'm also open to it just being three bad guys, and one of them being an occultist.
True, too, because I don't think Miskelly has any... he's not doing this...
I think Jesse was along for the ride with his friends.
Yeah. What about Dominique? What do you think of Dominique's involvement?
I don't think she was involved, but some people do think she was involved.
Yeah. What do you think, Fred?
I think she might have suspected something, like, after the fact, but I don't know if she was actually involved. Some people say it was her on the side of the road. I think that it was mistaken identity. When you really get statements, I think it was definitely Jason and Damien that were on the side of the road.
Well, I forget, TJ Tier, I forget if it's her cousin or her sister in California. She was a
cousin?
Yeah, a cousin, okay. She was a real big shot, man, as far as being a spokesperson for international vampirism. She was the
spokesperson. I got a few copies of some of her some images that I saved offline from her magazine that she printed. It was called Sound.
Yeah.
Secrets, I think it was called Undead, I believe it stood for. She also worked on a vampire encyclopedia that's out there. They have a copy of it at my local library. She goes by the name Auntie Pan online. I got a link to her MySpace somewhere.
Yeah, me too. But did you know she was also a furry?
Oh, yeah. She also writes vampire erotica.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I know, man. I said, you can't make this stuff up.
She writes gay vampire erotica. It goes something like, and then the gay vampire stepped out of the shadows and said, I want to suck your...
So now we got all this these vampire movies, I don't even follow them. You know the ones I'm talking about, the ones that kids love. Do you think that's a coincidence now that
Damien was very into Anne Rice stuff.
Yeah.
He might be these vampire people. That stuff's normal now.
Yeah, I think there's one bit in Exhibit 500 where a social worker's writing about her encounter with him or his encounter with him, and the social worker's saying Damien relates that he is a vampire. This is not something that I believe is said to shock, but something he really seems to believe. And as soon as he got out, his first costume party, he chose to be the vampire costume, and he is documented as admittingly, licking and drinking. I don't know how much drinking went on, but licking of blood.
Well, he wanted to argue semantics with that. I didn't drink it, I licked it.
Right.
Yeah.
The Bill Clinton argument. Yeah.
There's also a drawing of him that an inmate did, a portrait, and the inmate drew him as complete with long fangs coming out of his mouth.
William, right? Can you guys hear me?
I hear you. What's up?
Okay, well, the thing is, you're familiar with these, the Manson, case and the Process Church and all this kind of stuff like that. Do you think it's possible that there has been a long-range plan where it was known in the beginning, when Eccles committed these crimes, that it was a long-range plan to have him released into the public as a cause célèbre, and the whole thing has been fabricated. The whole thing was a plan from the start.
I find that very, very, very hard to believe. I think that it just morphed. Like, if you follow following the trajectory of the case, like after the murders, it's like he was resigned to his fate. Like right after, you can see him when they declared him guilty, he was in, and then he decided to commit suicide 5 days later, or did a half-witted attempt at it, and then something changed, like right when those new documentaries came out, and there were people who, were sympathetic. Then he changed. He became a Buddhist. He cut his hair. You can see in his interviews, he's wearing prayer beads and stuff.
Right.
And then they went right after Byers. So it's like there was a snap, like something changed, and he decided to get rid of the witch stuff. And well, for him, it's intergenerational too. It's not. He grew up around it. His mom. He's basically his mama's son, Look at his mom. His mom is in denial and covering up for him the whole time. She's taking pictures of him. She knows that he has a pentagram on his chest. She knows, and like I referenced it in my book, that he goes and he's collecting all these satanic books. She knows everything.
Well, she knew that he came home one day with a skull, a dog skull, and acted like it was nothing.
Yeah, she acted like it was nothing. She knows his associations. I mean, the person who should be studied is the person whose name he took, Jack Eccles. That guy, something's up with the stepfather. And there's been other, references to other occultists in that area. One of the guys, I think his name was Jared Schwarting or something like that, said something about a guy they reference as Lucifer. And, so Eccles is learning stuff from other people. I mean, he did. In the court records, it said he didn't even know when he started to like licking blood. He said he started 10 years earlier, which puts him at the age of 8 or 9.
One of my favorite stories about his friends is that two of them later went on to be part of a polygamist Wiccan marriage. And they appeared on MTV with the Wiccan polygamous marriage.
Oh, really?
Who did?
Yeah.
Eccles did?
No, two people that he knew that were involved in the case. One of them was Chris Luttrell and Shane Dibblebus.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they had I got it somewhere. Sean first showed it to me. It was they had a Wiccan three-way relationship, and the woman lost her kid over it because I guess the judge decided that it wasn't appropriate to have this kid in this environment with Wiccan three-ways.
Wow, because Luttrell was one of the original suspects. I mean, he was questioned by police, and he gave a lot of incriminating information. Do you think you could?
Yeah, and Shane Dibblebus was the one who said that Damien used to tell Deanna that he was the son of Satan.
Yeah, that was Dibblebus was the one that he tried to scratch his eyes out.
Yeah.
Dibblebus
Same guy.
like went in hiding. Like he was so scared that like there was a police report, nobody knew what happened to him.
Damien was listed as the chief suspect if Dibblebus ever went missing.
Yep, that was right.
Really?
That's right.
And I guess him and Chris all got together and they had a three-way relationship with this woman.
Wow, that is incredible. There it is.
I always like to pull that like little tidbit out of the hat whenever someone says, "Oh, Shane's just making this stuff up. He doesn't know the difference between Wicca and Satanism."
Wow, I've never seen.
Well, Shane did know the difference because obviously he took part in Wicca.
See, nobody knows this stuff because everybody's afraid to talk about it on these blogs. It's laughed at right away.
Yeah, but it's absolutely central to the whole situation. Absolutely, without a doubt. Wow. I mean, see, they're all into it. They're all into it, and then there's one guy who's absolutely psychotic, who goes nuts and decides to kill some kids. I mean, that's why this case should be discussed, because
right.
You have a literal psychotic out on the street. I mean, did you guys hear the whole story about his dog Pumpkin?
No.
He got a dog Pumpkin that they got when they were up in Salem, and they had to his wife Lori had to give the dog back because it was irritating Damien. It was basically the word is that he was going to kick the dog or something like that, but they gave it back to the shelter.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that these guys are going to wind up, unless they can buy their way out of it. But they're going to definitely reoffend. I'm sure of it, especially Sully.
Oh. Well, there's still stories that he's still eating his girlfriends. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I just heard that tonight, too.
Wow, this is incredible. I never have seen this Luttrell and Shane Dibblebus picture. Oh, my God.
Where'd you get that, in the chat?
Yeah, the Polyamory Society. These people, they're all so oh my God. I mean, every day I get something new. Like, when I first published the book, I had no idea that Eccles had a pentagram tattooed on his chest. I learned that later, and then I came across the stuff of him licking blood, and and then I discovered all the people that are like their heroes. I mean, if you research the supporters, the patrons.
Yeah.
Man.
See, I'll tell you this too, man. I'm looking at this picture too. You're talking about on MTV. You don't wind up on MTV by accident. I do a lot of this stuff. I do casting and stuff. And this is no accident. We have to find out who got them cast on that show, and that's the connection. Because these guys are getting great press, man, and it's I don't know, man.
It's amazing.
It really is.
Absolutely amazing.
So, Fred, why do you think this aspect of the case isn't discussed on the blogs?
I think you're exactly right that it's too easily dismissed right out of hand as hocus pocus schmocus, laughable. It's for people that want to dismiss it. It's hard for them to understand the distinction that it's not that we're endorsing these things as real or legitimate in terms of the power of Satan. At least I'm not. I don't know about any of that. But what matters is not what we think of that kind of material, but what Eccles' mindset could be demonstrated to be back then in 1992, 93, and for that matter now. Right when the release happened, soon after that, he got some heat online for doing things like there's this very realistic portrait painted of a demon in a fiery environment, sawing his own limbs off and piling the limbs next to him and cackling. And Damien's take on it on his Twitter feed was, "This is breathtaking." You know, what?
Yeah, right.
It's just, are you trying to fuck with people? What are you doing? But I think generally he's been, in the early interviews in 1994, 95, he was more free with saying things like, "I didn't drink blood, I licked," where you could see his quote in the Geraldo show from that era. Whereas, like William was talking about, in the years since, when the support movement started getting some traction, I think people, I think for however it happened, he got the idea that maybe I should rein it in a little bit. Maybe I can fly my freak flag when I'm
That had to be
out
from
a
the
little bit
board,
more.
though, man, from Kathy and Burke and those guys.
Yeah, I know Sean would have story after story about people that became interested from a non-perspective early on and would, time and time again be scared off or put off by supporter shenanigans of posting their photo or their residence or doing something that embarrassed them, and that Sean and Lisa O'Brien are two of the people that have kept with it over the years since the early days, but that according to Sean, there's been plenty of people that have just dropped to the wayside because it's not worth it.
Right, because of the harassment, and we don't, and the people on the non-side don't have this fascination and this romantic affection for Damien Echols.
Right. Yeah. What happened? If you I've posted a lot of posts that are Eccles centric, and when you do that, you end up risking getting accused of, well, you just don't like him. You don't like him personally. You don't, and it's a personal thing. So I've had to kind of, I try to cover the other guys, Jason and Jesse, and I try to reasonably state my opinions on Eccles and his behaviors and offer examples so that it's, but yeah, with this, it gets very personal. The people that support them, they see three guys who are treated unjustly, and they're our guys, quote, our guys, and it's the people opposing become it. It's like you're attacking their hero or their family member, their friend.
Okay, but Burke and Kathy and them, they know they're guilty.
That's what I've heard. That idea floated before. That they. I don't know. I guess I always imagine the typical supporter mindset to be, this is the cause, and we believe it's a sort of faith-based. They don't see it as faith-based as I do, but it's a faith-based thing, and that they sincerely believe in the innocence of these guys. But I don't know. It's conceivable that there are some people that it doesn't really matter to. That I've had people say, well, they served their time.
I'm sort of in that camp, because 20 years is a long time to serve for a murder, even one as bad as this. The average guy commits a murder, they get like 8 years, and also too, unless you're Casey Anthony, or Jodi Arias, and you're on TV, and even the average child molester. People think, oh, let's do scientific experiments on child molesters because we hate them, blah blah blah. The average child molester does 3.5 years. They get an 8-year sentence, and they serve 3.5, and they're out. Okay, and that's what goes on every day in court.
Wow.
Yeah. So, for these guys getting 20 years, man, I can live with that. I really can. 20 years is a long time in prison. And they didn't do easy time either, these guys, that I know of.
Yeah, it depends who you ask. If you ask Damien, it was hell on earth that you can never imagine, and his toothaches were. You have to imagine that the most terrible pain you've ever had, multiply it by 10, and then imagine it every day, and was his life. Whereas Jason, I think by his own account and by Damien's account, which was kind of in poor taste for him to express, but Jason, according to Damien in his book, Jason liked prison and was fitting in well there and was looking forward to continuing his schooling there. And I think Jason has said some positive things about the prison experience. So, you know, it's depends which prison and what population and who's talking, but yeah. Did I just put everyone to sleep?
No, I'm still here.
I got a better mood. Sorry.
I'm winding down though, guys. I gotta be honest with you. It's been. We're at the park.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Listen. Thank you for coming on, man.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you for everything and for putting up my qualms and hesitations. And this was proved to be a good experience, and I'd be happy to repeat it.
Yeah.
As would I.
All right, great.